The Shire is home to the Hobbits and involved the commonly known large houses and holes that were also inhabited by large families where all Hobbits lived. However, in Bilbo's days, only the richest and poorest of the Hobbits lived in Hobbit holes, while the others had to adopt other forms of abode. The Shire was first divided into 4 quarters, called the Farthings, north, south, east, and west, within which there are a different number of folklands. While Tugs lived in the Tuglands, this was not entirely true with other families. The Shire didn't have any government, and families arranged their own affairs, which included growing and eating food, being generous and not greedy, and contented and moderate so that buildings remained unchanged. Those, along with some others, were the rules, both ancient and just, since there was no king and the Hobbits typically kept the laws of free will. This tradition occurred in the north of the Shire. The Tug family was passed on by the office of Thane. The Thane was the master of the Shire Moot, captain of the Shire Muster, and hobbitry in arms. The mayor of Mitchell Delwing was the first real official who was elected every 7 years, at the Free Fair on the White Downs, at the Leith in midsummer. There were 12 sheriffs, the name that Hobbits gave to their police, and thus 3 in each farthing. They had no uniforms except a feather in their caps. A larger body, the Bounders, was employed to beat the bound and were known to involve many strange creatures. However, few Hobbits knew, even Bilbo did not know when he found the One Ring. How much or how little he revealed to no one, not even to Frodo, his favorite nephew. Hobbits are unobtrusive and very ancient, for they love peace and quiet and good-tilled earth. A well-ordered and well-farmed countryside was their favorite haunt. They do not understand nor like machines more complicated than a forged bellows, a watermill, or a hand loom, though they were skillful with tools. They were also shy of the big folk, quick of hearing and sharp-eyed, chubby, nimble, and deft, and not inclined to hurry unnecessarily. They would eat 6 meals a day if they could get them, and are hospitable and delighted in parties and presents, which they gave away freely and eagerly accepted. They dressed in bright colors, and had good-natured faces, and laughed often and heartily. They were smaller than dwarves, ranging from 2 to 4 feet in stature. Later hobbits would seldom reach 3 feet, though in ancient days they were taller. Bandobras Tug was the tallest hobbit before Merry and Pippin surpassed him after drinking the Entwater. They were broad, bright-eyed, red-cheeked, with mouths apt to laughter and to eating and drinking. They were suspected to have been around long before the events in Lord of the Rings and Shire reckoning. Hobbits had a habit of smoking pipeweed. They had an astonishing habit, inhaling through pipes of clay or wood the smoke of the burning leaves of a herb which they called pipeweed or leaf, a variety probably of nicotiana. It is unknown when exactly the hobbits first learned to smoke. However, the first discoveries of the custom were made by Merry Brandybuck. He and the tobacco of the South Farthing would play a part in the history. However, the first true pipeweed was made by Tobold Hornblower during the days of Isengrim, the 2nd or 1070 Shire reckoning. The best homegrown varieties of pipeweed still come from there, especially Longbottom Leaf, Old Toby, and Southern Star. Tobold, or Old Toby, was not a traveler, though he knew about herbs. In fact, he has never gone beyond the Bree, where it is suspected that he had learned about the plants he used from. Old Toby was also convinced that the weed came from northern Anduin, which was brought over sea by the men of Western Essie. Men of Gondor call it sweet galanas, though even the Dunedain of Gondor gave credit to the hobbits who had first put it into pipes. After the end of the Third Age, the hobbits remained similar, living in the northwest of the Old World, east of the sea. While they didn't continue having a love of learning as seen in Lord of the Rings, there were a few in the older families that continued to study their own books and reports of old times and distant lands from elves, dwarves, and men. The most important source of history was the events occurring in Lord of the Rings written in the Red Book of Westmark, and the first copy which would be made afterwards the Thane's Book. It received much annotation and many corrections in Minas Tirith. The Red Book contained Bilbo's translations from the Elvish, but it was little used by Frodo as he was mainly concerned with the Elder Days. Merry and Pippin were also able to keep up their connections in Rohan and Gondor, and there were many works dealing with Eriador and Brandy Hall. Some of those works were actually written by Merry, along with his Herblore of the Shire, Reckoning of Years, in which the discussions were based on relating time in the Shire to that of Rivendell, Gondor, and Rohan, and also old words and names in the Shire, which was based on the language of the Rohirrim. While Pippin didn't write, he had collected many manuscripts written by scribes of Gondor, especially histories and legends relating to Elendil and his sons.